Hello everyone, my name is Rakesh Koti. I'm a director at Organo. One of my portfolios is also head of sustainability for Organo. So when we say any community is a net zero community, what that basically means is if we total all the loads that are consuming energy in the community, that should equal to what we are producing through renewable energy sources. At Antharam, the primary source of energy for us is around 650 kilowatt of solar panels that we've installed, which is exceeding the total amount of energy that the community is consuming. So, when we talk about the loads that are in the community, there are loads that are at the unit level and there are loads that are at the community level. When I say unit level, it means your air conditioning loads, your heating loads for geysers, your lighting loads, your appliances, all of that come under unit loads. At a community level, the biggest loads are again air conditioning and hydropneumatic pumping systems and borewells and motors. They constitute majority of community loads. Along with that, you also have small loads like street lighting, which are also part of the community loads. So, when we talk about net zero, it is not just unit loads that are being offset by solar, but it's also the community loads together in Antharam. So, in Antharam, just like in all our other communities, we have a concept called net metering because solar doesn't work throughout the day. It only works about 4 to 5 hours every day when the sun is at its peak. The rest of the time, there will be solar production, but it exponentially reduces as the day goes by. So, what we do is whenever we have excess power produced from solar within the community, especially during the day from 10 o'clock to let's say about 4 o'clock, the excess amount of power is actually exported to the grid. And the same power can actually be imported back into the community at night when the power requirement is huge, especially the air conditioning loads are pretty high. So, when I talk about grid, that means the main electricity grid. The net metering concept allows us to actually import and export freely with the main government grid and from within the community. So, the community has its own microgrid where all the solar panels are connected together. This is actually talking to the main electricity grid and exporting and importing the power as and when required. Net metering is the meter actually measures the net amount of energy that has been imported or exported. So, let's say 100 units is exported and 80 units is imported. Our difference, our net metered energy is 20. So, that's what net metering means. And this is measured by the government every month. Antharam is designed to be a net zero community uh, at an occupation level that we typically consider to be at 60% fully occupied. But for that to happen, it usually takes a couple of years for any community to become fully operational and occupancy to reach 60%. Until 60%, all of the energy that is produced is actually in excess of what is consumed within the community. Once that optimum occupation level is reached, that is when all of our systems are designed to be really net zero from there onwards. So, what we factor in into our calculations is, let's say there is an occupation of 80% and not 60%. There is another factor that we do where not all the loads in the house are switched on. So, this 60% happens when 60% of the people are occupied and all the loads in the houses are switched on. But that never is the case. Even there, the percentage of loads that are switched on is close to around 60 to 70%. That is also factored in into the calculation. The way that Organo Antharam is designed is with an assumption that 60% of the population would be considered a full occupancy at any point of time, because what we build are second homes. But what if the occupation is 80%? Let's say it becomes a primary home for a lot of people. Even then, we have factored in an assumption that not all the loads in the buildings are going to be switched on all the time. There is again a ratio of 60% loads that are switched on at any point of time. But if we consider, or hypothetically, if 100% of the residents are living there full time, what we've done is we've given provision for the community itself to expand its installed solar capacity. We have a lot of parking areas where additional panels can be added. The wiring has been done to make sure that even if it is 80 to 90%, there's still infrastructure level, there are not major changes that will be required. One major change that might be required is probably to have a transformer with a higher capacity, but the community is designed to extend its infrastructure in terms of solar output. Even though the community is designed to expand to 100% capacity, it is actually detrimental to putting all of that right now. The reason is very simple. The more solar that we put, the more power that we produce, which is actually going into the electricity grid, the government grid. It's only credits that we add, but there is no use of that. Number one. Number two, we'll be paying a lot more money as a minimum demand charge to the government because we're installing additional solar. So there is no point in scaling up the system right now, but as and when need arises, it's a very simple thing to actually scale up the system. So scaling up the system, according to our calculations, even in the next 10 years, it might not be needed. But maybe in 15, 20 years, if required, uh, we might even have better solar panels with a much better efficiency. So in the same space, we can actually install higher efficient solar panels. If that is not the case, then like I said, the community easily expanded solar out. So there is this charge that is levied on the community once a month by the government. It's called a minimum demand charge. So the reason why the government levies this fee is because they have built an infrastructure outside the community through which we are importing and exporting a lot of power. Because they have built the infrastructure and they're enabling us to do that, there is a minimum demand charge, minimum amount of money that the community has to pay to the government. So it doesn't matter if we're using 100 units or 10,000 units. This minimum demand charge should be paid monthly by the association, the community. So, what are the benefits of being a net zero community? Apart from the obvious environmental benefits, because we are producing renewable energy, we are not depending on, um, you know, uh, diesel, or we are not depending on coal plants for our energy. The immediate benefit that the residents have is actually a lot of cost savings in terms of their monthly energy bills. So, for a typical size of Antharam unit of 3,000 square feet, the uh, monthly charges range from anywhere between 1,500 to almost 8,000, 9,000 when it comes to peak summer. But when it comes to Antharam, regardless of what season it may be summer, winter, rainy, whatever season, the minimum demand charge of the electricity bill is always around 1,000 rupees. So Antharam is obviously, like I said, it's a net zero community. But why did we not install solar panels on every rooftop, and why did we install it in common areas? So that's a big question a lot of people ask. There is a tremendous advantage when it comes to generating power collectively rather than individually. One immediate example that I can think about is having solar panels on individual rooftops means that, let's say your energy demand is going very high in the summertime, your solar on your rooftop may not be able to support it. Second, the maintenance cost for maintaining these solar panels individually per house is much more expensive than at a community level. Now, when we're installing solar at a community level, it means that the energy is shared much more optimally. And the maintenance aspect of it becomes very simple because cleaning the solar panels, the number of inverters that are installed in the community, the number of electrical components that are usually prone to failure are also reduced. So both in maintenance terms and as well as the efficiency of energy usage pattern, it is very very uh, uh, advantageous to actually have these solar panels at a central level and on a unit level. So that is the second benefit, and the third benefit is a drastic reduction in your carbon footprint. So 40% of the carbon that we emit as a community is actually through operations, and that too specifically through the energy that we consume. And this, as time progresses, this 40% increases to 50, 60, 70, and within the lifetime of a house of 50 to 60 years, 85 to 90% is just about your energy consumption within the project. Now imagine that 85 to 90% is all renewable and there is no carbon that you're adding into the atmosphere. That is what net zero community does at Antharam. So when we talk about hybrid energy systems, so we've done a few changes from Nandi to Antharam. Nandi was a microgrid where the solar panels were installed on top of each and every rooftop, and they were connected in a microgrid together. So the first source of power there is the solar panels. If there is a power outage, then the solar panels are cut off. If there is prolonged outage more than 30 minutes, the diesel generators are kicked in automatically. When we come to Antharam, we've taken one step forward where we've also added BESS. BESS is Battery Energy Storage System. For Antharam residents, this is a big advantage because the first source of power is solar. The second source of power during power cuts or without power cuts also is going to be BESS. And the third source of power is going to be the electrical grid. And only the fourth source of power is your DGs. So we want to make Antharam into a fossil fuel free community, but we want to be prepared for any type of eventuality. Let's say there's a power outage for 10 hours straight, 6 hours straight, 10 hours straight. We still have to rely on diesel generators, although we don't foresee that problem to ever happen in the community. But still, we want to be prepared. So in Antharam, all the solar panels are actually connected through on-grid inverters, and all the energy product produced is passed through the on-grid inverters, converted to AC, and then distributed. So at any point of time, depending on the amount of solar that is produced, there are different types of energy mixes that happen. During the day or peak afternoon, depending on the load, there is a mix of energy from solar as well as main electricity grid. Uh, and as we are coming towards the evening or in night, the main source of power, because there is no solar production, it is going to be BESS as well as the main electricity grid. When there is a power cut, our main source of power will automatically go to the BESS system. Once the BESS is completely discharged, then the DG kicks in. Even in the diesel generator, we have added components which are called as a synchronizing panel. Based on the amount of load that the community is actually demanding, the DG kicks in on multiple stages. It starts off with 30% DG capacity kicking in based on the load, and as the load is increasing, more and more DG capacity is also kicked in. So this is done to save a lot of diesel that is unnecessarily burnt when the DG kicks in at full capacity. So why did we go with a centralized battery bank in Antharam? The initial thought in Antharam was to have individual home UPS systems at battery backups for loads for lighting and fans, essential loads basically. So a lot of these UPS systems, they are basically lead acid systems, and they typically have a running cycle of 1,000 cycles, which translates to about 3 to 4 years of lifetime. After every 3 years, the batteries have to be changed, right? And disposing these lead acids is another big issue, not only environmentally but They also cost a lot more. The advantage with having a centralized lithium ion battery bank is, number one, lithium ion batteries have a life cycle of 8,000 cycles compared to 1,000 cycles of lead acid batteries. So your lifetime is increased by 8 times. So that's almost 50 to 20 years of life cycle that you have for lithium ion battery banks. Second, because they are centrally connected, the load distribution is much better. Imagine 50 homes with UPS systems with homes that are not occupied. The energy saved in the battery is wasted. But if you have a centralized battery bank, that means the distribution of energy to loads that are really required is much, much better. The maintenance becomes much easier. Instead of maintaining 182 lead acid batteries, you have one lithium ion battery bank, which is much, much better and easier to maintain. And it can also have technologies which can actually detect where the faults are, and the replacement of batteries becomes easier. So all of these are advantages of having centralized battery bank. So in Antaram, there are three sources of power that we have. One is solar photovoltaic, the second one is our electricity grid from the government, and the third is diesel generators. All three power sources, depending on various times of day and the power outage situation, they are actually distributing the energy to all the homes and common areas in the community. To ensure that uh, these distributions are logged in accurately, for every unit level we have smart meters in place which actually detect the amount of regular power that is consumed and the amount of diesel generator power that is consumed at each individual level. So uh, for the first 2 years, like I mentioned, what we will facilitate to do is to ensure that we capture all the data of consumption from each house, and how much was consumed from the EB power, how much was consumed from the diesel generators. It is possible that some homes may have consumed a lot more and other homes have not consumed at all. But we will get to know what that situation is after 1 year, and then we will do internal adjustments. But as far as the community is concerned, all the bills for diesel as well as the EB are paid at the association level by the association, and these charges are prepaid, collected upfront, and deposited in the association account. After 1 year or after 2 years, we will then see what is the status of power distribution and then rationalize for the next coming years. So, in Antaram, what are the benefits of having these different power sources in a microgrid? I would say the advantages are threefold. First is definitely high reliable power source that is coming into each and every home, because we have BESS as a backup and it is a solar which is passing through an on-grid inverter. The quality of power is very, very good, with a lot of power fluctuations that are also reduced because of that. Second, the amount of energy bills that we get, because it is a net zero community and the only thing that people are paying is the minimum demand charge. So the energy bills month on month are drastically reduced. And third, there is also very high reliability in terms of backup systems that are centralized, because the DG, the solar, as well as the BESS is a centralized system. The maintenance cost, the way the power is distributed to the community, the load sharing that happens, all of this is an advantage to the community in terms of operations. Lastly, but not the least, it's a wonderful way to actually produce, store, and distribute renewable energy power. We may not be recognized right now, but Antaram is, at least we aim to make it into one of the first fossil fuel communities. And maybe 10 years down the line, somebody will recognize that, and the community itself might be, ripe with carbon credits. right, and recognized globally. So at least that is our aim. I hope this explanation was helpful and has cleared a few questions that you have. We are more than happy to actually dive a little more in detail in a face to face workshop. A humble request from my side is to ensure that be very mindful of the way that you're using appliances, especially behavioral aspects such as not switching on ACs in all rooms where only one room is occupied, uh, and also be mindful about when this equipment is switched on. For example, you can switch on your washing machines mostly in the daytime, because at night the power source again goes to either BESS, because there is no solar, it goes to either BESS or EB. But if it is in the daytime, you're directly using the energy from the solar panel. So as much as possible, our humble request is whatever loads can be put during the day, please do that, and be very mindful about energy use in the house. Thank you.